Loud. Recording in progress. So now we are consenting to move forward. So one of the things that we just did is we are going through the why, who, what, when, and where, so we can figure out what our bed consent policy is. This is an example of what we've had. So previously we had Donna Ray, we had Todd, Danger Kitten, and myself, Momo, in here, and we did this in February of last year. Now we're adding in Erin, as we are going to show you how to break down what your camp's responses are to these prompts and what Erin has already said to the purpose and why consent is important is consent is a foundation of my personal health. She's all about she, right? Not they or anything.
You can, yeah, she's fine.
She? Okay. So all about boundaries and taking care of myself and extending that to other people. So now we're going on to the who portion of our consent policy. And this is an exercise. So whatever Erin says, I'm going to just put the responses of what she wants down here. So Erin, when it comes to who is going to, or a group of people going to be the final say when there is a consent violation that happens, who in our bed camp do you think should be that person or people?
This is an important question, and I believe that it escalates. So the first responsible party is myself. And if it escalates, then I would talk to one of the camp leads. And I think it's really important to recognize that if it escalates enough, that there may not be a qualified individual in my camp to handle it. And I need to seek help outside of my camp from the rangers or law enforcement if need be. I believe also the Zendo camp is a safe space. And I think that campers need to recognize their ability and their capacity to respond to different situations depending on, the situation.
Pat, oops, that's what I felt weird. Capacity to respond. Yeah, that's a really good response. So it's an important question. And you're right. I also feel like it escalates. So like you said, it could be yourself. Like, is this something where like maybe someone touched your shoulder and it's something where maybe you just want to make the response of saying like, hey, how's it going? We had a moment. I just don't feel like being touched right now. I just wanted to let you know, no shame or anything. Like, how's your day going? It could be something super simple like that, to the point of maybe you just saw like an act of rape going on, and that's not something that you are able to handle. Like a, hey, how's it going? Being present might be something I feel comfortable doing. And like bringing it into like, this is a terrible situation where I'm intervening right now. Or like, Erin, if you didn't feel comfortable doing that, knowing where your EMS station is, your emergency medical services, or a ranger, or how to get one, pointing at people like everybody needs to go find a ranger right now. I'm sitting right here. I'm keeping eyes on the situation. It really depends. Like capacity is a great word. So props on using that.
Thank you.
So that's really, really good input. So it's varying levels. So immediately, what did we say in the past? The shot callers. How do we visibly find these people? Oh, these are for projector pieces. So if there's, say, like a tier 1, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So tier 1 would be like a low level violation or consent opportunity. And that could be something like light, unwanted touching.
I believe a teachable moment, a low level teachable moment.
low level teachable moment.
Yep,
Look
that's
at you.
cool. I watched your video.
Yeah. And I've been trying to change the word consent violation. A
Uh-huh.
really long, like 2 week long conversation with someone that I had like a positive moment with. And like consent violation just sounds like we're being the consent police when really we are the camp of the Bureau of Erotic Discourse.
Hmm. I agree
And
with you.
yep. So
Yeah.
thanks for solving that year-round problem that is
No,
right
I
then
love
and
it.
there.
And it's
This
easier
is
to have a conversation with someone if you're not coming at them as a violator.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hey, how's it going, right? Like you're not
Right.
assuming ill intention. Like teachable moment. Perfect. Literally took the words out of my mouth. Okay, so we have a tier one, low level teachable moment.
Mhm.
So that could be like light, unwanted touching. What else?
Let's see. Well, I mean, insisting that I eat food that I don't want
Yeah, insisting on food that's unwanted
or drink.
or drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really don't want the fish. Thank
That
you.
happens to me all the time.
Yeah, yeah, and like there's like AA on Playa. So like when it comes to drinking or doing drugs, like pushing mind changing controlled substances or alcohol could be something that is not a positive influence in someone's life. So
Right.
respect the boundary and give that teachable moment.
Right.
And so who can do that?
Well, I think it starts with me. So I'm the first person to say, hey, these are my boundaries. Please respect them.
Got it. So that's something where like that's the tier one. That's something that you can execute the hey, how's it going? Or straight to a teachable moment. And then now they know that boundary's been set.
Mhm.
So tier two, what could a tier two teachable moment be?
I would probably enlist the support of just a friend.
Okay. Enlist the support of a friend,
Yeah.
which like hopefully the goal, and I haven't been able to figure this one out. Maybe as this goes into our community, someone can come up with an idea. We want consent ambassadors when we have an event going on in our camp. So we have a scheduled, okay, there's a party from 8 p.m. to 2 in the morning. And while we're there, we have consent ambassadors that could be this enlisted friend. Like that is their volunteer shift. So if they see things like this, then they know that the person who is like a guest in their house can go to one of these consent ambassadors and then just ask for help to where there could be a teachable moment that's stated by somebody else. So if there's two teachable moments happening in one night that goes to one of these consent ambassadors or from the person who acts as themselves, that could be something where there's a removal that happens.
Right.
So within the video, I was pulled from the default world as we were training our ambassadors in the event production world. So typically there's security, but what's a different type of security that we have at Burning Man?
Well, I believe the Rangers, they're considered security. And I
Exactly.
think that probably the Burning Man Rangers would be a safer bet than law enforcement.
Yes.
Yes. And then, if they feel like it needs to escalate to law enforcement, I feel like they would be safe in making that call.
They make the call. And honestly, just like back and forth between this bed meeting and coming up with our consent policy, I 100% can get behind that. Because Rangers, they are volunteer, but they have gone through training on kind of like a hey, how's it going attitude. And then they also have radios. So it's not just two people coming up to you, it's your resource to get to the people who are on the golf carts who can bring you backup, who can decide if law enforcement is needed,
Right.
depending on whatever it is. Like it's not even like the extreme example of, say, rape or anything like that. We had someone outside of bed who was screaming and like yelling on acid, wouldn't keep the fire lane clear,
Mhm.
asked him to move, and then started becoming very aggressive with us. And
Mhm.
nothing would happen until one of our campmates went and got a ranger and he saw himself out, because there's that intimidation of the line of communication.
Right. Right.
We couldn't handle it anymore.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm recognize that and turned it over to the qualified individuals.
Yep. Yeah. And that's really what it is. Like how you said earlier, the qualified individuals. Just because we're going in and we're thinking and having a topic of consent doesn't make us the professionals, right?
Right.
We're just trying to get our brains together and the whole community's brain together and figure out how we could fix an age-old problem on consent so everybody feels safer.
Right.
It's not just Zendo anymore. It's not just an EMS tent. Hopefully, it's all of our camps can be that support to our entire community would be the dream.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So these are the examples of going through and how to create our bed consent policy. So there's a lot of text here, and there's not just one person's opinion. It's not just mine. It's not just yours, Erin. It's all of these people that were in the meeting from over time. And what we do is we take everyone's opinions on how they feel their camp should handle things. Like, I'll give you another example. Someone told on themselves for not discussing an STI. And some
Oh,
people could have their own opinion on lower level, more common STIs, do things that are actually deadly, but it's taking away the choice. And the
right.
person changed behavior by volunteering this piece of information, by not stating what STI that they had. So a very calm way, because they were showing change behavior by telling on themselves and not being a consent ambassador, is that they aren't allowed to be for 6 months or to camp with us right now. So it's not a permanent ban. It's showing change behavior and it's outing themselves with something that was they've now discovered is wrong, where there's
Mhm.
still something that happened, at least in the immediacy of trying to figure out what our camp bed policy is. And it's going to flex. We can't know
Right.
every situation, which is why there's teachable moments. And we have, say, our camp leads make final decisions if it has to escalate up to, say, this area, and maybe even somewhere between a ranger.
Right.
Like if there's a tier
Mm.
2.5 is like a camp meeting. Mhm.
Right. That's a good plan. Yeah.
Okay, my numb lock was on. Let's see, it's camp 2.5. I could type right now. 2.5 camp meeting. And then here 3. I don't look when I type, so I just pray for the best when I look up.
Yeah.
Oh, 2.5. I kind of
So
like the thought of 2.5.
that that's the adaptive function of gossip is it establishes social norms. So
Yeah,
this whole like call out culture, the whole point of call out culture is to create hopefully healthier social norms.
right. And
Yeah.
we do that with like Moop, like, or if you
Right.
don't wear lights at night. So it's like dark
Right.
tard, or
Right.
like pick up your shit. Like
Yeah.
that's us saying our own principles. So this is just our principle of consent.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
culture creates itself whether or not you do it intentionally and deliberately or not, And I feel
yeah,
like burnout is the perfect opportunity to create intentional, mindful cultures.
exactly. So just for this recording, at least, I don't want to go through every single one of the why, who, what, whens, and wheres, but this is a great example on how to do the why portion, the who portion, and even just in this recording now, we've already come up with two, instead of saying consent violations, teachable moments, which is really what they are, totally changes the tone of that. So we're adopting it. We're doing it. And then 2.5, having a camp meeting, like maybe you pass go and you go straight to Rangers, or maybe it's something where it's something that the camp can call because it's safety third, not just your regional and not the org. So this was really good.
I think some of those things are dependent upon the like the immediacy of the required response, you know. Like if someone, like you said, like the guy that was tripping on acid and being belligerent, you know,
Right.
you wouldn't, yeah, that's kind of an
Yeah,
situation.
you're totally right too. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is like simplicity is genius and keeping things as simple as possible because the what ifs of the 5 years of practicing any bed conversation with so many different camps and different levels, trying to put it into a 3-step process was probably the hardest thing to do, to blanket it. So at this point, it's worked in almost every situation at varying levels, and very, very rarely do you need to skip over, say, like a teachable moment issue. Like, I'm sure it's out there. So these are suggestions, not the rules, and we're throwing it out to the community. So the community can be kind of like the two of us right now, a larger mind, but with more of them.
Right.
So we can see the really, really great portions and the terrible things that may have been seen now that things are getting uncovered. It's just out of the dark. And unfortunately, it can be really hard to deal with. Trust us, we know.
Right. Right. And it can be difficult for a lot of people. Like if it's not clearly defined and clearly established, like, you know, that guy who grew up in the social norm of it's okay to grope people, suddenly he's surprised when it's not okay to grope people, and he's being, you know, attacked at the camp because for being a douchebag. But in his mind, he doesn't even know because he doesn't understand that things have changed. So we have to
Right.
clearly communicate this change so that people have the opportunity to, you know, participate in new social norms.
Exactly. And like that could be really hard for some people, and not everyone's forced to do that either. So with these consent ambassadors, like say if you do need to enlist the support of a friend, that's what the consent ambassadors are there for. Because how many times have there been moments where someone like comes up and smacks your ass, you like have your fight or flight moment, and then the moment's gone. You don't even have the chance to have that teachable moment. But if there's other people around watching, making sure you're safe, giving a hey, how's it going to like, man, like, was that your friend back there? Like, oh, I don't know who that bitch is. Or like, oh yeah, like we're married. Like
Right.
it
Right.
gives you the chance to go to here.
Right.
So
Fantastic.
it seems to be working. And then it's just the discourse for whatever your camp is with your trusted individuals. And you get to see each other later. So when these topics come up and it's something that you care about, it's something where it does hold that accountability closer to the people that you know.
Right.
Well, thank you, Erin. I'm going to wrap this up just so we're not sitting, chitting, chatting, because I know when it comes to, so now part of your training, this is an example and it can end up being really long. I highly suggest keeping an eye on the clock and only keeping these meetings to 1 hour. So if you're not a really fast typer, maybe you have somebody else who does it and that can literally take notes on the whole thing. What our next steps are going to be is we're going to condense this information down onto a 1-page way to response with our 1 paragraph on what our consent policy is, who deals with it, the different tiers, and then what to do once there is no longer a responsible body. So thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Okay.